some French roast dark coffee. I bought this a few days ago, and this is organic coffee. It costs a lot more, but I don't go through that much coffee really. It takes me a while, but it tastes good, and it is a lot stronger than the non-organic cheap coffee that I had. But I do feel better. I slept about 12 hours, and I decided that since I feel so much better, and I've got myself a nice cup of coffee, I'm going to go through and answer more questions on my channel. So let's go ahead and get right into it here. I'm trying to do this without spilling any of this anywhere, because I filled up the whole cup almost to the top, but it was too hot to drink, so I poured some milk in it to cool it down. So I had to sip a little bit of it and then add milk and sip a little bit until it got to where it was not so hot. Okay, first question. And this is on ballpoint pens versus gel pens, quick guide comparison and review. So all the ballpoint pens are oil-based, so they have the shimmer ink on the paper. You see in the sunlight, right? Is there a ballpoint which is fully black? I guess if you got a gel pen, that would be more fully black, or maybe a V5 Pilot Precise. That does have a rolling ball, so technically it is a ballpoint. But if you're referring to the pens that are like ballpoint pens, like the Bic or the Papermate, I've never really seen any that are completely black. Because I do notice that in the sunlight that they're not completely fully black. They just have a little bit of a shimmer to them, and so they aren't quite as dark as a lot of other inks. So I think if you want a darker ink, go with something like a gel pen, or maybe this Pilot V5 Precise, and you can actually refill these, which does take a bit of work. You have to pull this little part of it out and then put ink in it and then put it back in. Although since I've done that, this has kind of gotten crushed a little bit. Time for another sip. Okay. How to draw with Roaching Isograph pen tutorial. And the comment was, I usually draw with this, that's the 0.005 micron fine liner pens. Does that match with the 0.01 pen? I love micron pens, but I want a fine liner with white ink. Because on my white gel pen are drying out, just like a ballpoint pen, my gel pens aren't that smooth and much thicker than my 0.005 microns. Do you think buying a 0.01 isograph of white ink is a good solution? I do a lot of stippling and small detail drawings. Have a nice day. Greetings from the Netherlands. Oh, excuse me there. I had to breathe in, but I inhaled some of the coffee. Let me try that again. Have a nice day. Greetings from the Netherlands. I think you should be good, because the ink that you get for these Roaching isographs it's a darker ink. Like if you get white ink, it's going to be really white. If you get black ink, it's really going to be a very black ink. Now for stippling though, you might be more careful, because the tip of these is, I wouldn't say they're fragile in the sense that they wear out or anything. It's that they're fragile in that they can bend pretty easily if you get anything below a 0.35. Now if you get a 0.01, just make sure you take good care of it, clean it a lot, and make sure you have good ink for it. I would recommend getting the Roaching white ink for it, that is for the technical pens, and use that for doing your line drawing and stippling and everything. As far as line width, I would say they're probably pretty similar. I haven't really noticed that much of a line variation in width between the 0.18 and the 0.25. Going from the 0.25 to the 0.35, it seems like the line width more than doubles. I'd say it's anywhere between, it seems like 2 to 2.5 difference in line width between the 0.25 and the 0.35. Between the 0.18 and the 0.25, it seems like a difference of maybe 20%. If you're drawing with a 0.01 Roaching Isograph compared to the 0.05 micron, I think that it will be pretty comparable or very similar in line width. So I think that should work pretty good. Although I've never drawn with the Roaching white ink. It's the same type of ink that is the blank ink that's used for the Roachings. So it should cover up pretty good if you're drawing on a black paper, which I'm going to guess is what you're doing. And yeah, I do have issues with gel pens sometimes drying out. That's why another sip. That's why I always store my pens upright like this, not that way. Because if you store them this way, all the ink flows to the other side of it, and it's going to either leak or it's all going to get jammed up there. So you're probably best either store them this way or flat, but I always store them that way, and I make sure I leave the cap on it. And then if I need to draw, I just flip it over. I go like that, and I shake the pen a little bit, and then I can start my doodling. So hopefully that answered your question, but if you have anything else you want to ask me related to that, I will get back to you as soon as I can. Next question. How to fill Roaching Isograph Technical Pen ink refill tutorial. And the question was, how do I open a brand new ink cartridge? It has some sort of plastic insert inside that I'm not sure how to remove. If it's for the Roaching Isographs, I'm pretty sure the Rapidographs are the ones that use the refills cartridges, and I've never used those before. I've only used the Isograph, so I wouldn't know. I don't have any experience with the Rapidographs. I've never used them. But if you're talking about the little bottle, there should be just a little tab that you pull off. But if you're talking about the ink cartridge itself that is for the pens, I don't think the Isographs take a cartridge. I've never used cartridges with them, so I wouldn't know that. I've only used the bottles to refill them. So I will have to look into that more and get back with you on answering that question. Next one is, let's see here. Okay. I was about to read the name of the video as the question. So the name of the video here. Can I use fountain pen ink and Roaching Isograph technical pens? That is the video. And it says, can we use Roaching Isograph ink for technical pens? Pretty sure that you can. Because that's what they put in these pens here. Now, if you're talking about like a different type of technical pen, like let's say maybe a micron or maybe something else, then it depends on if the ink is something that's similar to this fine liner. Like this here is, I think this is alcohol-based type of ink for this fine liner for drawing, but this V5 Precise, I'm able to refill this with Roaching ink. But this is more of it's got like a really tiny ball end of it that moves around. So that's a bit different than your standard technical pen, which is just a small wire. You should be able to use it. It's going to be a better ink than what you get in most technical pens. So you should be okay. Now, if you have a whole set of pens and you want to disassemble the technical pens, like some type of micron or something, make sure that the pen doesn't use any type of alcohol-based ink, because you might have issues with it flowing or drying up. And I would make sure you try to clean the pen first before putting ink in there, just so there's no issues with any drying or clogging up. So yeah, you should be able to use it. That's what the technical pen ink is for technical pens, but more specifically these ones that are refillable. You'd have to just I don't know what pen you're using as far as technical pen. If you would let me know, I could give you better detailed information about that. And next one is on drawing a mysterious person set in an abstract world. Now I gotta go to the video and see what pen I was using, because the question was, cool, what pen were you using? Let's see here. Oh, that was I was drawing with a Staedtler tripless fine liner in that video, and I like these because of the tripod grip. I do wonder if it's possible somehow if I can get the end of this off, which I'm going to try to do, because I have had these for about 3 years, and the other dozen that I have seem to be all dried up. So I'm going to see if it's possible to refill these, but I'm pretty sure this is more like an alcohol-based ink. So I might have to clean it and everything first before I do any drawings with it. But yes, that was a Staedtler tripless fine liner. Okay, next question. Is on mechanical versus wooden pencil, which to use. Let's compare. And the question was, what lead type does that pencil take? And if it's a Unicura Toga, I think it was, let me look here. Hopefully my camera doesn't lose focus. I think I might have one in here somewhere. I don't. I thought I did. Where is it? I don't have it in here. But as far as the lead that I use for that, I haven't drawn with that, and it's been at least 6 months. So you can use any type of lead to refill it as long as it's the same size as the pen. So let me look it up here. My keyboard's pretty loud, isn't it? It's a point. I think it's a 0.5 from what I'm seeing here. Yeah, as long as it's a 0.5 lead, that's for mechanical pencils, you can get any type of mechanical pencil lead, as long as it's the same size, which is the 0.5 millimeter. Okay. Next question was on how to doodle the Scribble technique tutorial. And the question was, is it compulsory to know sketching to do this? it's kind of, let me think here. When it comes to the way that I doodle stuff, it's more of a, it's less about trying to be precise, really, and trying to use forms such as doing realistic drawings. Because I notice if I do a lot of doodling for many months, I lose a lot of my ability to do portraits or realistic type of drawing. Although it does come back pretty quick. But I've always enjoyed doodling a lot more. But you wouldn't have to know sketching, like how to sketch figures or anything, to just doodle random stuff, although it would help you. Like if you know how to draw faces, or to draw, do figure drawing, or to do realistic drawing, or anything that's, from the real world, like a car, a person, an animal, a building, or anything, then that's going to help you in drawing abstract, because you can implement those real world things into the abstract art so that people can see stuff like recognize clouds and faces and buildings. But you wouldn't have to know how to draw realistic stuff or do any figure drawing or any sketching that involves knowing how to draw realistic stuff. Because when I just start doodling, I just draw more. I'm kind of zoned out in a way, but if I actually want to draw a certain thing, I'll actually focus on it, look at the paper. But it's more of muscle memory, repetition, and practice. You'll start learning different shapes and you'll learn your own techniques that work for you. But what I was making in that video and some of my other ones are kind of the techniques that I've taught myself, that I've learned, or maybe some basic fundamentals. Like with drawing faces or drawing real things, you want to look at stuff and, depending on what angle you're looking at what perspective. So you'd have that, and then you've got, forming basic shapes. If you're going to sketch something quick, like if you're drawing something that is a person that has more of a round face or a squared face, maybe you can start out drawing a square, and then once you've got the square, you can cut off the edges and then block in areas and then draw. But with doodling, you don't really have to be able to draw realistic stuff or sketching realistic things, although it can help you. The next question is how to draw with Roaching Isograph pen tutorial. Could I do stippling artwork with this pen, and do they have white pens? Do you mean if they have white ink? Yes, you can get white ink for the Roaching Isographs. You can just look up online, Roaching Isograph white ink, or Roaching technical pen ink, and that should give you what you're looking for if you're wanting to draw with white ink, which I'm going to guess you're drawing on a different color of paper other than white, which won't work unless you're using that type of clear ink that is for some type of fountain pen that is you're able to see it. It's like a glow-in-the-dark ink, which I wouldn't use for a technical pen, but you can do stippling with this, and they do have white ink for these. And the next question is on my Bic mechanical pencil drawing in Pentalo sketchbook. And the question is, quick simple question, what kind of sketchbook did you use? Let me look here, because I don't remember. Because I have, I think, over 900 videos now. I'm pretty sure that was Pentalo sketchbook. And I don't know why, but for some reason, like, I cannot figure out why some of my videos get such a large amount of views that are ones I didn't put a lot of work into, while other ones I put a massive amount of work into it, and yet they pretty much get no views. I don't understand it. So that's one reason why I kind of just quit worrying about trying to, you know, make everything the absolute most amazing piece of art. I mean, I still want to improve, but I'm putting more of my time into the drawing rather than so much stuff with the content. I mean, I try to do both, but there's a point to where you put so much work into it and then you're just overwhelmed. But yeah, that was the Pentallo sketchbook. It's a small one, and I liked it. It was pretty good to draw in. I was pretty happy once I got it done. There's a lot of pages in that one. Okay, next question. Roaching Isograph 0.35, new nib replacement, and a new doodle. And the question is, can I put my 0.35 millimeter nib tank on the 0.18 millimeter nib? Because to me, it does not work, but my Roaching 0.35 is an Isograph, so it is not the normal one. It has this P, which means it's made to draw on polyester. I wonder if I can change it if I had a normal Isograph 0.35 millimeter. Could it then change the end tank? Okay, trying to think how to answer that, because I'm trying to think of what you're asking exactly. If you're asking if you can change this whole piece and put it on another Isograph, which is this piece here. You got your reservoir, then you've got this here, which holds the nib inside of it. Well, I'm not going to take this apart because I'll get ink everywhere. I'll show you an example. So this is what you have left when you take the reservoir off. Now, in here, I have this on here to keep it from getting damaged. And here's a little piece that you can twist. And I often just use my fingernail, I can twist it, and the nib can come out. I don't advise taking it out because it's very hard to get the nib back into this. Because they do bend very easily. So I would recommend cleaning these without taking the nib out of it. Just leave it in there. But if your question is if you can just switch this out and put it on that reservoir, yes, the Roaching Isograph reservoirs, they all fit on all of the different nib sizes. But if you're asking if you can put that nib into this, like take the nib itself out, which would be, make it, this should focus, I think. Focus. I think it is. There it goes. If you mean to take the top of this off and then take the nib out of this, and then switch it and put it into this, it's not going to work because these, the nib holder, these two are different sizes. The part where this nib goes into is a different size, and so because of that, the ink flow isn't going to flow properly through it. So if I was to take this nib out and put it into this one, if the ink would flow too much and it would just kind of leak out the end a little bit. If I took this nib on the inside and put it into this one, the nib is slightly larger and it's not going to fit and no ink's going to come out. So if that is what your question was, then I don't think you would be able to do that because of the precision of how they're made. They're made specifically for this pen size. So if you try to switch the nib itself out into another one, it's not going to fit and it won't draw properly. But I've never used the Roaching that have the P label on it for polyester, or for drawing on polyester. I do have this I don't remember the name of it, but it was a different type of technical pen, and I think it's for drawing on stuff for drafting. And the other part of the question was, I wonder if I could change it if I had a normal Isograph. Could I then change the ink? Well, one thing I actually do sometimes is, let's say I have multiple, excuse me there, need some more coffee. So let's say I have multiple of these pens. I don't have, one second. I actually have two of these. So let's say I have this one here, and I want to clean the nib. One thing you can actually do sometimes is take the reservoir off and then place it onto another nib size, and then clean the nib, and then take that reservoir off and put it back on this one. Or you could just take the reservoir off if you want to clean the pen. Like if it seems clogged up, you could take the reservoir off, and then I usually take like tape or something, and I cover the top of the reservoir once I take this end off, and that keeps the ink from drying. But that's if I have issues with clogging. Usually if you're having issues with clogging, to where the ink is dried up, and then a lot of times there's going to be dry ink in the reservoir, so you most of the time probably just better off putting all new ink in this once you've cleaned the entire pen. But I don't think you would be able to put a different nib size and a different trying to set this over there without my camera focusing on everything behind me. But you probably won't be able to put a different nib size in a different nib size. No, what's the word? Holder. But I'll look into that more to try to figure out what the possibilities are, because I've done all kinds of stuff with, taking these apart, refilling them. I'm going to try and see about taking this one apart and putting ink in it, see if it'll work. Although I'm pretty sure this one is alcohol based, so I don't know. We'll find out about that. So hopefully that answers that question. And the next question. So the next question about who buys a pencil extender, or why would you buy one? The reasoning for that is, so let's say you buy some pencils, and well, this is a cheap pencil. These don't cost that much. So let's say you buy maybe one pencil at a time because you don't need a whole set. Or maybe you do buy an entire set and you want to save money or use all of the pencil. So when you're drawing with a pencil, as the pencil starts getting shorter and shorter, you're not going to have any room to be able to hold the pencil anymore. So as you can see here, the back part of the pencil here that is resting on my hand, as I continue drawing and drawing and drawing, it gets to where it's like this. So once the pencil gets to about here for me, then I can't really draw with it anymore. I have to like hold it like that. And another problem is going to be that when I'm drawing with it, you hold it at different points. Like you hold it like this if you want to do some shading, or maybe you'll hold it up farther to be more precise, or you'll really hold it back really far like this to do shading. Now, if the pencil gets to where it's really short, and you still want to use the rest of the pencil and not throw it away, which they didn't back when things cost more. Let's say it was hundreds of years ago, for example. Or let's say you just want to save a lot of money in modern times. You would get a pencil extender so that you could use all the pencil, and also so that even if the pencil gets halfway in length, you've still got a lot of pencil left and you just throw it away. You're losing a lot of pencil that you can draw with. So if you buy a full pencil and you throw it away when you get halfway through it, you're throwing away 50% of your pencils technically. So when you get the pencil extender, it allows you to be able to use all of the pencil and continue drawing. And it also makes it so that when you're drawing, you can hold, you have the pencil at the length that you had it before. And so then you're able to draw again the way that you were when the pencil was at its normal length. Another thing you could do is if your pencil's like this and you've sharpened it and you want to shade in a different way, or even shade more lightly, and maybe you want to do more practice with hand control or doing more drawing with movement of the shoulder or the elbow rather than just from the wrist, you could add a pencil extender, which would extend the length of the pencil. So then you're further away, so that you're not trying to draw so perfectly and precisely. You're drawing more loosely, which is what a lot of people do for figure drawing. You just kind of draw the shapes in, and then you can go in and add details later on. And that's one thing I do with drawing with ballpoint pens, is I kind of just scribble everywhere, and then I go in later on and I add in more details after I've done that. Although I could get a pencil extender for my ballpoint pens or gel pens. I should try that. I think I might have a pencil extender somewhere, but I don't remember ever using one because I had so many pencils. I've got hundreds of them, so I'd never actually really use them much past a certain point. Like when they got to 50% length, I would just use that pencil as one for doing tiny little details, because most of the weight was, in the tip of my fingers then. Whereas if you're drawing like this, a lot of the weight's going to be up here. I mean, it's so light, it doesn't really make much of a difference, but when you're trying to be as precise as possible, it can make a bit of a difference. But I'll have to get a pencil extender sometime and do a tutorial of that and show you more in depth of what I'm talking about, rather than just talking about a pencil extender, not having one with me. Next question was on how to fill Roaching Isograph Technical Pen ink refill tutorial. Can I fill the ink cartridge in my normal fountain pen with this? I don't think you can use Roaching Isograph ink for technical pens. I would advise against using fountain pen ink and technical pens. And I wouldn't use technical pen ink I wouldn't use technical pen ink in fountain pens, and I wouldn't use fountain pen ink in technical pens. And the reason for that is because some of them are going to be where they aren't, how do I put it? Some inks you're able to draw with, let's say you do a watercolor wash over an ink. Some inks will not blend in with the water, whereas other ones will. So some inks are waterproof. And also depending on the flow of the ink that you get, some inks with fountain pens, if you try to use it with a technical pen, isn't going to work because it might flow too much, or maybe not enough. But the Roaching inks, I think they're thicker than the fountain pen inks. So I think if you try to use a technical pen ink with a fountain pen, it's not going to flow as well. And I also noticed that this ink seems to be more water resistant than fountain pen ink. So if you do put it in a fountain pen ink, I think you're going to have problems with it drying up. And trying to get it clean is going to be more difficult. But I've never tried to use technical pen ink in a fountain pen for that reason. Maybe if I can get a cheap, well, I do have one, but I actually do have to clean that one. I've had that one for maybe 2 years, but anyways, I'll get another really cheap fountain pen that's like $1, and I will try a bit of the Roaching technical pen ink in it. I'll do a drawing, I'll wait a week, and then try to draw and see if it works. My guess is that the nib of the pen where the ink flows through, this here, I'm pretty sure that what will happen is that ink is going to dry up, and you're not going to be able to draw with it. I mean, the ink isn't going to flow then, and then you're going to have to try to clean it and everything. You're going to have to use a certain type of cleaning solution that is for technical pens, which is going to cost more. So I think you would probably damage the pen then, or it might not ever work again. Let's see here. Next question. How to overcome artist block? Triangles. And the question is, do you cross-hatch much? Yeah, I do a lot of cross-hatching. Like a lot of the drawings I do, I do lines in one direction. I'll do the hatching part. And then once I've kind of done that, all on one side of the drawing, I'll come back and hatch in the other direction, which then you're cross-hatching. Because if you just draw lines one way, that's hatching. If you draw them over the other direction, that's cross-hatching then. But I implement that in a lot of my drawings with my Roaching isographs to give that shading effect or make it more three-dimensional and not so flat, because I wanted to try to incorporate some of the things that I did with realistic drawing and with my doodles that I do with ink, with the Roaching isographs or fountain pens or technical pens. So yes, I do quite a bit of cross-hatching in my doodles. Time for another sip. Yesterday I was recording myself answering questions, and I noticed that my DSLR, after 29 minutes and 59 seconds, it stops recording. So I'm going to have to figure out how to re-edit that, fix it, and upload it. It'll probably just end abruptly. I might be short answering one question, but at least I know that now. Okay. Next question. Favorite pen, technical ballpoint, gel, fine liner, glass, or fountain? The question is, the glass dip pen looks awesome. Would love to see it working too. Is the Isograph 0.35 okay on cartridge paper? You're talking about like printer paper or paper for, it's like that cardstock paper. Yeah, I've drawn on those before with the technical pens, but make sure you get a very, very smooth surface of paper so that you don't have any issues with the pen catching on the paper, because that was what I was having issues with, is that when I was drawing with the technical pen, on some papers I would go to make a line, it would catch, and I would say, okay, I'm not drawing on this paper at all, it's just not going to work. But as far as cartridge paper, it should be okay, as long as it's very smooth paper. If you notice that when you go to draw on it that it does not feel smooth at all, I wouldn't draw on it. But as long as the paper is smooth, you should be okay. The only issue might be with bleed through or feathering on the paper if you have a really cheap paper. Like if I draw on, let's say it's like a 15 or 20 pound weight printer paper, it will bleed through the paper and you will get a little bit of feathering. but you should be okay as long as the paper isn't too thin. Although I have had paper like this Rhodia sketchbook here, which is actually fairly thin, and yet it does not bleed through. So the quality of paper is going to matter. So I would recommend getting a type of cardstock paper that is thick enough to where it won't bleed through and really smooth. So something like, I would say most of the cardstock I draw on is around 90-pound weight, which is what the weight of the paper is like the higher the paper weight, what that means is that the paper is going to be able to hold more ink, and it's a thicker paper, such as if you have paper that is 10, 15 or 20 pound weight, that's that really thin printer paper. If you have something that is 90 pound, 100 pound, 110 pound paper weight, then that's going to be something like your cardstock paper, and those are the ones that I've used for drawing on. You can get in huge reams of like 500 sheets of paper, but do go with the smooth. The smoother the paper, the better. Next question: simple doodling with a complex fountain pen. And he says, technical pens drove me crazy, so I switched to fountain pens. Do you still use both? What concerns go into deciding which one to use? If I want to sit down and draw something that is very precise, and I've always got the exact same line width, and I'm drawing on smooth paper, then I will draw with a technical pen such as the Roaching Isograph or the Staedtler Marismatic. They are more upkeep, like they're more upkeep, and they require more care, I think, than a fountain pen. I mean, I have 2 fountain pens that I don't really clean that often, and I take good care of them, but I don't clean them anywhere as often as I clean these. I mean, these I probably clean, I'd say now I clean them every week, and I also clean them whenever the ink runs out. So I'm cleaning them at least 4 times a month, 4 to 5 times a month, whereas a fountain pen, I don't really clean it until the ink runs out, which is like maybe once a month, because I have so many different pens that I draw with that I don't really go through the ink very fast in each of the pens. Now, if I just had this pen and this was the only one I did drawings with, I would have to refill this every 2 days on average. Maybe every day, possibly, if I'm doing a lot of drawing. If I draw for 12 hours nonstop, I'd have to refill this. That's because the way I draw is very scribbly, and I put in a lot of detail, so it uses a lot of ink. But with the fountain pen, the upkeep isn't as much, but the advantage that you have with that is that you can hold a fountain pen at more of an angle when you're drawing. You don't have to hold it so upright, and also you can draw quicker. You can draw on rougher surfaces. You have more variety of papers that you can draw on. You have a wider variety of ink colors and types of inks, whereas a Roaching, you've got your Roaching technical pen ink, then you've got some different colors. Whereas with fountain pens, you have a huge variety. I mean, you've got thousands and thousands of different type of inks and colors, whereas with the Roaching, you've got maybe a dozen, and that's it. So the one slight disadvantage is that the fountain pen isn't going to give you as perfect and precise of lines. With the technical pen, the line is always going to be the same width, unless you're drawing with, let's say it's a micron that you've had for a long time, or some other type of technical pen, like this accurate technical pen. So the nib of it is going to wear out over time. So you're not going to get precise lines anymore. It just depends on what I'm wanting to draw with, but I do draw with both of them. And if I had to decide which one to use, I can't really pick which one I prefer more. Like if it was between the Muji pen here, the fountain pen, and my Staedtler 0.35, and I wanted to do a drawing, I would say that it's even, because it just depends on what I want to draw. It depends on the paper that I'm drawing on. Depends on how long I'm drawing. And because of that, I go back and forth between them. And a lot of times I'll use both of the pens in the same drawing. I'll use this to draw, maybe to fill in areas very quick, or to, draw some outlines, and then I'll go in with the technical pen to draw in the very fine, precise details. And I'll switch from using this one to the 0.18, and then I'll use the fountain pen to fill in areas. What are other concerns that goes into deciding? That would be the different inks, line width, ink colors, upkeep, cost. What else? The grip of the pen. Technical pens, like if you've got the Kohinoor, the Roaching, the Faber-Castell, and the Staedtler Marsmatic. Those are the 4 main type of refillable technical pens that I know of. So you don't have as much of a variety in pen types. You don't have much variety in ink colors or ink types, but you have more variety in line width. There's a lot of different widths of the line. And also another advantage of drawing with a fountain pen compared to drawing with a technical pen is that the fountain pen, if you get one that's a flex nib, you have sort of, well, not really unlimited line width, but you can get line width that varies from, let's say you had a technical pen that was a 0.25. If you get I'd say a 0.25 or maybe a 0.35, around there in width. And let's say you get a fountain pen that is extra fine with a flex nib, you can get a line variation between 0.25 of a technical pen, or maybe 0.35, somewhere around there. Between that to maybe a 0.7 or 1.2 line width of a technical pen. And you get that line variation from all throughout that. Whereas with technical pens, you have to keep changing pens to get different line widths. So I guess the advantage is you can get one fountain pen with the flex nib, and you could get all the different line widths, but it's going to take more practice to be able to have that control. But I guess a disadvantage of that is precision. It's not going to be as precise, but it's going to be more expressive in the drawing. So I guess a fountain pen would be more expressive and artistic in the way that it's kind of, the lines flow and they go from, you can go from a thin line and slowly gradually get to a wide one, or it can change quickly. Whereas the advantage of drawing with the technical pen is that it's all precise lines, so it can be very detailed and intricate to draw with. I could probably make an entire video answering that question, talking about it and comparing it in the future. But hopefully that answered your question. Next question is on the same video, simple doodling with a complex fountain pen. And the question was, what is the brand of this pen? I'm looking for a pen with a big reservoir, with a fine or extra fine nib. And a link to the pen. It's just I I think this one is a fine nib, I think. And this is a TWSBI Eco T. Now you can get the TWSBI Eco. The reason I got the Eco T is that this one has a tripod grip, which I like on fountain pens. Although the Muji doesn't have a tripod grip, it's got this knurling on it, which makes it good to grip and draw with. But this is the TWSBI Eco T, and it does have a big reservoir, as you can tell right there. It holds a lot of ink, and this one is a fine nib, I think. I'm trying to find where it says it on there. But I know that it should be a fine nib. You can just look up online, like if you search TWSBI Eco, which is TWSBI Eco T fountain pen, then you'll find this here. But the original one is just the TWSBI Eco, and they're pretty much the same pen, but the only difference being that this one is a tripod grip. But that was the pen that I was drawing with in that video. So yeah, it does have a large reservoir, and I'm pretty sure this is a fine nib. My Lamy Safari is an extra fine nib, and it doesn't come with a reservoir. You've got to buy a converter for it to put ink in it, because that one uses cartridges. Let's see here. Next question. Okay, I've got 7 minutes before my DSLR randomly stops recording. And it's on how to draw with Roaching Isograph pen tutorial. Will it cover light pencil and or eraser? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it should. I think the only issue you might have maybe, well, if it's light pencil, you should be okay. But if you were drawing with charcoal, I wouldn't recommend drawing with a technical pen over charcoal, because the graphite might get caught up inside of the nib, or the charcoal will. If it's light pencil, you should be okay. But if it was, let's say you're drawing with a 2B or a 4, 6, 8, or 9X XB pencil that's really soft, if you try to draw over really thick graphite or thick charcoal, then some of that little pieces of it is going to get inside of the nib, I would think. I don't think I've really done any drawing over pencil with these. Maybe only a couple times, but that was with very light drawing lines. So if it's over light pencil, then you should be okay. But if it's over, let's say you erase and there's a bunch of pieces of eraser everywhere, you wouldn't want to draw immediately over that with a technical pen. You want to wipe away the residue or the pieces left from the eraser before you draw on it. Let's see here. Next question is on intricacies of doodling in my sketchbook, Roaching Isograph drawing. Do you feel Roaching is superior to Kohinoor? I feel like my Kohinoors are too sluggish for doodling. I've never used the Kohinoors, although I could try one sometime, and when I do, I'll let you know. I can do a review of that pen. And I can compare the Kohinoor to my Roaching Isograph, and then compare all of them together between Kohinoor, Roaching Isograph, and Staedtler's. I have to try that sometime, but I've never used the Kohinoor, so I don't have any experience with that to give you really any advice on it. But you say that they're too sluggish for doodling. I'm going to guess that you mean that the ink doesn't flow fast enough or well enough when you're drawing. Has it been that way since you put fresh new ink in it? But if it's doing that now and it wasn't that way before, you might just need to clean the pen. But I'll have to try them sometime and see how they work. Okay, that'll be the last question I'm answering for now. I'll be making more videos answering questions maybe later today or tomorrow or some other random time when I get to it. But let me know if you have any questions in the comments below this video or anything else. Just let me know if there's something you would like me to draw or something you'd like me to answer in a future video. Just let me know. But I'm going to go ahead and finish up this coffee. I didn't think I'd be sitting here talking for almost an hour. That's better. So, yeah, just let me know. And I'm going to do some doodling. And you have a good day. And hopefully that answered the questions good enough. Although a couple of them I wasn't sure about. But I'll try to get back to them later. Anyways, I'll see you all later. And you have a great day. And enjoy doodling.